when you simplify a problem like this, you need to make sure that whatever you're breaking apart is either a perfect square, or if it's not a perfect square, in this case, you need to break it apart so a perfect square factors out. And we have two options here. Since we're multiplying it and the index is the same, both of them are square roots. What I'm going to do is break this apart, break all of them apart, and if it's not a perfect square, then I will break it apart so the factors, at least one of the factors, is a perfect square. So I'll have root 25, which is a perfect square. X to the fourth is a perfect square, and the reason why, that exponent 4 is divisible by the index 2, and 4 divided by 2, we're good. Y to the fifth is not a perfect square, but y to the fourth is. So I can break that apart as y to the fourth times y. Again, y to the fifth is not a perfect square because its exponent 5 is not divisible by its index 2. So the smallest or the largest number less than 5 that is divisible by 2 is 4. So I break it into 4 and 1. 8 is not a perfect square, but a perfect square that divides 8 is 4. So I can break this apart into the square root of 4, and I would have to multiply by what's left, which is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Nothing can be done with that x. And finally, right here, the y to the third can be broken apart into the square root of y squared times the square root of y. Now what I did there, I didn't try to simplify too much at once. From that step, all I did was just break it apart, either into a perfect square or pieces that are perfect squares. I'm now going to go through and simplify anything that is a perfect square. Anything that is a perfect square, I'm writing right now underneath it. And anything that is not a perfect square, I will just rewrite. So this is what I have so far. Anything in red can be brought out front and multiplied times each other, and anything in blue can be now combined under one radical bar, kind of going backwards. So when I combine, let's see, I can combine 5 and 2, and when I do that, I'll get 10. I have a x squared, which is just an x squared, and y squared times y is y to the third. Now anything in blue, I can combine under one square root. So I have y times y, which is y squared. I have times 2 times x. Okay, now what I need to make sure is anything that's left under that square root, is there anything under there that itself can be broken apart? And it turns out that this y squared right here is a perfect square. So nothing happens with this 10x squared y to the third, but I can break that apart into y, the square root of y squared. Neither one of those, the 2 or the x, can be simplified, so I'll just leave that as the square root of 2x. This will become 10x squared y to the third. Square root of y squared becomes y times the square root of 2x. So finally, my answer is 10x squared y to the fourth times the square root of 2x. That is my answer. Some things to keep in mind. Do not try to simplify things and break apart in one step. Right here in the beginning, all right, I probably could have just said square root of 25 is 5. And over here, I probably could have seen that a 4 comes out to be a 2. But if you try to do too much at once, there is a very good chance a small mistake will be made. Don't make that small mistake.